Today I'm going to be comparing this Cacoe and this Niveaya waterproof phone cases. Now the Cacoe is designed to be buoyant, so it's designed to make sure, if you drop it in a lake or in an ocean, something like that, that it will stay on top of the water or near the top of the water. The Niveaya is not designed to have that buoyancy built in, although in my experience, it actually does have some buoyancy to it. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to compare these two options. I'm going to test them out, see how waterproof the inside actually is. I'm going to do that by putting paper inside and then putting it submerged in water for 15 minutes. And I'm going to run a test on the Cacoe and then also a test on the Niveaya for those. Before I get to that, I did just want to kind of show you how they work. So the Cacoe, you're going to pop open right like this. It's a little bit more difficult to get to just because you have to kind of grab that little spot there. And then the same thing on this side, pull it out, and then it's going to pull all of the way out. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the way these Cacoes, this thing kind of you have to thread it through each time. So I'm not a fan of that. But overall, definitely really easy to use. The Niveaya is a bit easier though. It has a little thing that pokes out, so it makes it easier to grab, to pull out. That just pops up to the front, and then it separates. This stays loose here on the front, and this is going to connect into that, and that's what makes the seal. So essentially, as long as you have these out, when you put it back into place, it easily goes right into place, and then you just clip it close. So the clipping part is a lot easier on the Niveaya, or Niveaya, not sure how to pronounce it, then the Cacoe is. Not a fan of the way they designed this on there, but I do like the buoyancy that the Cacoe provides. So now let's go ahead and test how waterproof both of these are, whether they stay whether they allow water in or not over a 15-minute test, and also how buoyant the Cacoe is in comparison to the Niveaya. Now, when I'm comparing these two, one of the main things that I want to compare is how waterproof they are. So what I've done is I've taken this first one, so the Niveaya, and I have submerged it. I'm going to leave it submerged for 15 minutes here in my sink in my bathroom. And then because it does kind of float up, I'm not sure if it would still float with the weight of the phone, but because it does kind of float up, I have this glass soap dispenser on top. So you can see here, it is fully submerged. That's where it's going to be at. This it's kind of floating up there when I test it. So this is going to be fully submerged in water. I'm going to leave it in there for 15 minutes, and then I'm going to do the same with the next one. So this Niveaya has been completely underwater for 15 minutes now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this off. And as you can see, it's going to float right back up to the top. So this should still float even if it has a phone inside of it. I'm going to take this off here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to dry off the outside of the case just to kind of make sure that I don't get any water inside after I open it up. So that's my main concern here, is I don't want to accidentally get the paper wet if it wasn't already wet. So it is something I'm just going to do here. I'm going to try and dry off all of the top and make sure we're not getting any water in there. Now you can kind of see through here, I'm not seeing any moisture at all on this paper. On either side, same thing here. I'm not seeing any water on the inside. Again, I'm going to try and dry off any droplets of water just to make sure that I get it accurate, whether it gets any water at all inside. But it doesn't appear to, even after being submerged for 15 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to lock it. I really do like these unlock ones here on the Niveaya, that it's just they pull right out and then it just connects. You can see here, there's going to be a little bit of water that got right inside there, but it doesn't look like there's any that got inside the seal. So I can see here, I'm looking, I'm going to pull out this paper here, and absolutely no water got on this paper on the one side. Let's look at the other side here. And again, no water at all. The only wet parts are going to be from where my fingers touched it. So this Niveaya does 100% work, even fully submerged for 15 minutes. Now again, I believe this is going to float pretty decently, even with the weight of the phone. So it's not going to immediately sink to the bottom, because it does have that kind of flotation in it from the air that gets inside of these pockets. You're talking 15 minutes fully submerged. Hopefully, if you drop your phone into the water, you're going to be going after it sooner than 15 minutes, but it is 100% waterproof. So definitely a really good option here for the Niveaya if you're headed out on the boat or on the lake, something like that. So now I'm going to test out this Cacoe one, and I'm going to see how well that it actually works in regards to being waterproof. Now this one is far more buoyant than the Niveaya option that I'm comparing it to here. So this one I actually have to get something that's considerably heavier. So I have this other glass that we use to hold our toothbrushes and toothpaste and things. I actually had to use that to be able to keep it down because of how buoyant this one is. So this Cacoe is going to be a much more buoyant option. So if you're worried about like dropping in the water and it immediately sinking down, you know, if you're out on the ocean or, you know, deep in a lake where you wouldn't be able to see if it dropped more than a few inches in, then this is going to be a good option because of how much more buoyant it is than the Niveaya option is. But let's see how well this one does here after leaving it submerged in the water for 15 minutes. So it's been 15 minutes. Let's go ahead and take this off. 1, see if it still floats, and 2, see if the paper is dry. You can see here that it floated right back up to the top, so no issues with it being submerged for a while and then, you know, it's slowly losing its buoyancy, that sort of thing. The paper does look to be 100% dry. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a towel here and try and dry off everything on the outside just to make sure that I don't get water on the inside, just kind of show you exactly how dry that paper stays when being fully submerged in water for 15 minutes. So I'm just going to get as much water off of here as possible. All right, that looks to be pretty dry. So I'm just going to take off this top part here. So again, to remove this one, I'm just going to take this and flip that out, there and there. And let's open that up. And paper is 100% dry, not even a drop of water on any of it, besides the little bit of water I just got on there with my fingers. So definitely this Cacoe works great for keeping out the water. So both the Cacoe and the Niveaya both worked well for water protection. I do like the buoyancy of the Cacoe over the Niveaya. Just personally, I prefer to have it buoyant. So if I do drop it in a lake or something, the more buoyant that it is, the better, at least in my opinion. This one did have a little bit of float to it, but the Cacoe definitely had much more buoyancy to it because of these little, feels like air pockets almost, that are around the outside. So if those do get punctured or something like that, then it would probably lose its buoyancy, but as is, I do like that. The one thing I'm not a huge fan of on the Cacoe is going to be how this clips into place. So on this Niveaya here, it actually just has the single one that just goes right in. So you just put it right into place and then that clips shut. So it is really easy to do. The way the Cacoe is designed, you have to like thread these, after you put something into there, you have to kind of thread these through. And with these, you kind of have to push them out of the way to get the phone in. And then you have to push them back flat like that to get it to there. And then you have to make sure you thread it in the right spot and then you can clip it closed. So I like the way that the Niveaya actually closes a lot better. Overall, if I had to purchase just one of these, if I didn't need the buoyancy, I would 100% go with the Niveaya. So if you're going to be somewhere where you're in shallow water, you're at a creek, you're, you know, just swimming towards the edge of the ocean or the edge of a lake or something like that, then I would go with the Niveaya just because of how much easier it is to close this. I also do like the double pouches that it has, gives you some options. So you can put like a couple of different phones in here if you want, rather than this just being one pouch. However, if you're going to be out where the water is deep, I'm talking lake, ocean, pond, whatever, where you're going to be out in the middle, I do prefer the Cacoe just because of that flotation. Once you get those sealed, it's not the end of the world. So overall, both are good options just for different situations, I guess. The Niveaya for me is going to be my go-to option. And then the Cacoe is one that I'll keep like if I go out on a boat, something like that.